On July 19th, 1977, the world teacher, the Christ Maitreya, head of the spiritual hierarchy, emerged from his ancient retreat and is now in the modern world. With his disciples, the masters of the wisdom, he will inaugurate the new age of synthesis and brotherhood.
Good morning and welcome to our World Teacher program on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. Presented by Teresa and David on behalf of Share International New Zealand.
Continuing on from last month's program, today we have two more book reviews on the UFO phenomena. The first is written by co-worker Elisa Graf, sourced from Share International magazine, March 2017, and begins:
Google the term UFO today and there is seemingly no end to what one finds on the internet about extraterrestrial phenomena, much of it frightening and fantastic. Where does one even begin to sort it out? To discern the true meaning and purpose of the extraterrestrial presence on our planet?
Gerard Aartsen has written a concise new book, Before Disclosure, Dispelling the Fog of Speculation, a primer for students of ufology and exopolitics, to help us see through the deceptive fog of disinformation that still prevails, and discern for ourselves the truths underlying the extraterrestrial presence that, as Aartsen illustrates, find corroboration in humanity's shared wisdom traditions and in the latest scientific insights.
Before Disclosure counsels that to fully understand our extraterrestrial visitors, it's imperative to start with a series of contacts early in the 1950s, which essentially inaugurated the modern age of ufology. The early contactees, such as Giorgio Dibitonto and Wilbur Smith, had only positive contact experiences to share. The unequivocal message they were asked to convey by the space people, according to Aartsen, just a few short years after the devastation of World War II, and while humanity faced the new threat of nuclear war, was one of empowerment for the human race.
They counselled that humanity could create a peaceful future through international cooperation, ensuring that everyone's basic needs are met, as an expression of the oneness of humanity. Aartsen says these testimonies provide a reliable starting point, especially since their accounts all exhibit many striking correspondences, and they find confirmation not only from contactees in other parts of the world at that time, but also from many who have reported similar experiences in later decades.
To assess whether we should trust any claim of evidence, Aartsen says it must reflect some level of truth or reality beyond strictly subjective experiences, seeing if it finds confirmation from several angles, or at least more than one, from people across time, disciplines and or social strata. He writes that this is necessary, particularly in the context of ufology, as tangible proof will only be evident after open contact.
Aartsen warns that the decades-long disinformation campaign even throws so-called disclosure by governments or their agencies into doubt, as they depend on public support for their geopolitical agendas. By extension, he says, we should be very careful about embracing any information that reaches us via government insiders or whistleblowers, who may or may not have worked at secret laboratories, for the simple fact that we can never be certain whether their information wasn't deliberately planted to feed or increase the public's fear and confusion.
As in Aartsen's previous books, Before Disclosure helps us to connect the dots, reminding us at the same time that truth is a matter of perception, and perception is dependent on one's stage in conscious evolution. He writes, If an experience is of universal value, it will be recognized and confirmed from different angles, regardless of the particular department of human endeavour in which the person expressing it is active. He calls it cross-discipline corroboration, science and religion in this case, expressing the same truth from their respective experience of reality.
To illustrate, Aartsen draws on a famous quotation from astronomer Carl Sagan. "We're made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself," drawing insightfully a parallel to Jesus' statement, "I and the Father are one," expressing identification with the source of all life.
Aartsen further remarks that Giorgio Dibitonto expressed this same truth when he wrote in 1958, "Man must understand that he is one with all creation. He must comprehend that the atoms vibrating in his present body have been used and reused throughout creation. Therefore, they have participated in every phase, from the lowest conceivable form to immense planetary bodies that ages ago were absorbed back into space."
As Aartsen points out, humanity's spiritual advancement and the evolution of consciousness are persistent themes among the early contactees, who often expressed our visitors' concerns that humanity's scientific knowledge was outpacing social and human progress. He explains, "The visitors from space are eager to inform us that the evolution of consciousness, and by extension our moral development, should keep pace with our technological progress. The first step in this direction is for humanity to expand its consciousness to include our fellow man, in order to eradicate the case for the present crises, which our social structures are presently bringing to a head, based as they are on competition and greed as the ultimate expression of our separativeness."
While apparent that a key purpose behind our extraterrestrial visitors' contact has been to expand humanity's awareness, demonstrating that man exists throughout the universe, some contactees have hinted at another, more salient reason for the extraterrestrial presence at this particular time in human history.
Aartsen quotes Chilean contactee Enrique Barrios, who was told in 1985, "You are approaching a decisive point in Earth evolution, a time when you either unite and bring about what some call the Age of Aquarius, or you destroy yourselves."
This message is echoed in quotations from Italian contactee Giorgio Dibitonto, Giorgio Dibitonto, and by Benjamin Creme, who confirmed what we call the UFOs, the vehicles of the space people from the higher planets, have a very definite part to play in the building of a spiritual platform for the world teacher, preparing humanity for this time.
Promising a day when perhaps the visitors will themselves tell us why they are here, Aartsen shares a quote from contactee Wilbert Smith. "In time, when certain events have transpired and we are so oriented that we can accept these people from elsewhere, they will meet us freely on the common ground of mutual understanding and trust, and we will be able to learn from them and bring about the golden age all men everywhere desire deep within their hearts."
In our next article, "A New Moses Will Lead You," sourced from Share International magazine, October 2009, Gerard Aartsen wrote this review of Giorgio Dibitonto's book, Angels in Starships.
"How many articles or books have you read that left you with some indelible impression, as if you understand the meaning of life all of a sudden, or as if you've lived the experiences of the author yourself? Many readers of Share International will probably list one of Benjamin Creme's books, or an article or interview about the reappearance as such an experience.
Undoubtedly, most people will have a personal literary favourite, like one of Shakespeare's works. But frankly, once you've been acquainted with the ageless wisdom teaching, How often do you come across any type of book which leaves you with a sense that you've actually experienced something?
There wasn't much to the subject of angels in starships that prepared me for the experience that reading this 1983 book by Giorgio Dibitonto proved to be. The author describes how he and two of his friends are contacted by the Space Brothers in 1980 and, over a period of many months, are trained for more intensive contacts and experiences.
Eventually they're taken on several journeys in a spacecraft, where exalted beings teach them valuable lessons about life on Earth and on other planets. Mr. Dibitonto and his companions are also asked to extend warnings of impending catastrophe if humanity does not change its course.
The overtly Christian tone and references initially formed a test of my open-mindedness, as it took me a good year and a half to finally sit down and read it properly. Until then, the most interesting aspects appeared to be Benjamin Krem's remarks about George Adamski's Venusian origins in the publisher's foreword, and the fact that the author was introduced to the space brother who lived on Earth as Adamski, as confirmed by Benjamin Krem's master in Share International, October 2008, by the very space people whom Adamski had introduced to the world in his books as the Saturnian Ramu, the Venusians Orthon and Kalna, the Martians Furcon and Ilmuth, and Zul.
On his first encounter with his celestial contact, the author is told, "It is not the first time that we have met with men of earth in this manner. In your holy scriptures you have read that the Lord spoke to men of earth from out of a cloud. Your present encounter is no different from that which was experienced by your forefathers throughout the ages."
Many references to the biblical pillars of cloud by day and pillars of fire by night, which led the Israelites through the wilderness, are explained here as UFOs guiding humanity through testing times, both historically and at present, while the angels and archangels of the Bible are revealed here to have been space brothers.
Mr. Dibitonto's main extraterrestrial contact, whom George Adamski referred to as Ramu in his book Inside the Spaceships, calls himself Raphael, and reveals that he was the angel in human form who protected young Tobias in the apocryphal Book of Tobit.
Interestingly, the link between historical angels and space brothers is further reinforced by H.P. Blavatsky in The Secret Doctrine, Volume 3, where she talks about the 7 star regents, or the informing deities of the 7 planets, whom she identifies as Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, etc. In the same chapter, Blavatsky explains that the Lord of Hosts, or Sabaoth in Hebrew, literally means the army of the ship.
According to Giorgio Dibitonto, Raphael explains God is called the Lord of Hosts. The Bible tells you of a battle between the heavenly hosts and the powers of evil. It is good that the hosts of the Lord are always present, working diligently for the triumph of the good on earth, an invited army in a battle of love and salvation against evil.
And, as if in direct reference to what Benjamin Krem's master calls the gathering of the forces of light, Raphael adds, "Our numbers grow ever larger now in this time of our coming to earth for this great mission."
The great mission that Raphael speaks of is elaborated on later by Furcon, who explains, "The people of earth should prepare themselves for a new journey, one that has no equal in all your history. No single event that ever happened yet on earth can compare with that which stands before you now."
Referencing the Exodus, he explains, "Clouds and pillars of fire, which today you would call flying saucers and motherships, were seen over the leaders of the Hebrews who fled from Egypt. Exactly the same signs and realities portend these days in a new and final journey, which will lead you out of your present misery into the true promised land of universal love.
Our present misery is described by Raphael as the result of mankind's experimentation with living after its own desires. With that, he says, the cycle of our present time was begun. You who had eaten the limitless fruits of universal love wanted to enjoy one single fruit, namely to try the pitiable way of wrongdoing. Man began to put the bad in the place of the good, and decadence in the place of progress.
To reassure his human companions, Raphael adds, "We love God our Father because he loves us. He loves us unconditionally, and we do likewise, for this is the proper response. Soon your planet will comprehend this too, and the long-awaited day will dawn for you. I tell you truly, it will be soon."
You're listening to the World Teacher Program on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. Although clad in biblical terms, the information that Mr. Dibitonto is given coincides in many ways with the information from Benjamin Creme and his master about the transition from the old age of Pisces into the new age of Aquarius.
A striking example is when Orthon and Furcon discuss, as one of the signs heralding this transition, the manifestations of the Master who was the Madonna, who, they say, appears on earth far more often than most people are aware. Several times she has certified her presence with signs that arouse awe and wonder, such as at Fatima.
Raphael explains that the time has come for the fulfillment of the third prediction of Fatima, which Benjamin Creme has described as the fact of the Christ's imminent appearance in the world. Source Share International, October 2000.
The similarities with the information from Benjamin Creme about the reappearance of Maitreya the Christ become even more explicit when, on another occasion, Kalner says, "The Hebrews were led by a great universal brother who was born here in order to fulfill this important mission. His name was Moses. You will be led by a new Moses, whom we all love and admire greatly. He will lead all the people on this new exodus, like a good brother or father. All who trust in him and want to have him as their leader will arrive at that goal that has already been chosen."
On yet another occasion, a female space brother, referred to only as the Gracious Lady, adds, "Today the hour of universal truth has struck, and a new Moses will lead all who wish it to safety, without regard to race or nationality. He will be able to read in each heart the slightest longing for goodness and justice, which is the same as universal love."
This reference to Maitreya's social concerns is also made more explicit, this time by Orthon. The underdeveloped state of many parts of the world results in starvation and death through undernourishment and disease, as a consequence of poverty. That is a very heavy burden of guilt to be borne by those people who have a thriving culture.
Earlier, Raphael had hinted at the wider consequences of the state of our planet by saying, "The Earth is out of harmony, and disintegrating vibrations, like the scourges that lash her sorrowing multitudes, create ever-widening zones on the planet where the life energies are undermined. One day you will understand the reality of these conditions, which are beyond the grasp of your limited science. Those few who have begun to realize the true situation are misunderstood and left alone."
While echoing the words of Benjamin Creme and his master about extreme weather or climate conditions being caused by the disequilibrium among the weather elementals in the Devic world as a result of our wrong thinking, This passage brings home to the reader an even greater and more urgent sense of the interconnectedness of life. In fact, it is almost as if the journeys that the author and his companions are taken on by the brothers serve as teachings, or better yet, experiences in right relationships between human beings as well as between Earth humanity and its celestial brothers.
Despite the unmistakable Christian overtones in the author's narration, in a subtle, indefinable way, Mr. Dibitonto's description breaks down the barrier between our conscious experience of dense physical life on Earth and not just life on other planets, but, it seems, life on the higher inner planes of existence, leaving the reader, as a result, with an overwhelming sense of oneness, similar to what is experienced during a blessing by Maitreya.
In one passage, which describes the conclusion of a visit to a wonderful planet, the author seems to describe just such an experience when he says, "I felt enveloped in perfect peace and melted with quiet rapture. When all this was at its highest point, a sublime fire took possession of every living being present. It was like a golden cord, from abyss to abyss, from world to world, from heaven to heaven, from ecstasy to ecstasy. It drew closer to look into our eyes and claim possession of every fibre of our being, and so also with respect to each individual brother and sister present, and the Divine Mother and the Lord. I saw a godly countenance of incomprehensible beauty coming down from above. This sublime personification repeated itself a second and yet a third time, the last time seeming to appear as if coming from all directions at all points in the room at the same time."
The reality of which this book speaks is not conveyed through the words which the author chose to describe his experiences and the teachings and the revelations which he and his companions received. Yet the reality of our interconnectedness, not only as a human family on this planet, but with every expression of life throughout the infinite cosmos, speaks from this book in a way words alone could not achieve.
It seems to present itself through a definite heightening of one's conscious awareness, which lingers on for several days afterwards, to the extent that it is more difficult to understand humanity's violation of itself as seen daily on the news, or even to enjoy what one would previously consider innocent forms of entertainment, such as watching a television series or a film.
Reading this remarkable book invoked in me a more profound understanding of our connection with and our place in cosmos as the body of the Creator, where humanity will only be allowed to roam free when it realizes and acts from an experience of its essential oneness with all.
Our final article is from the Master as given through Benjamin Creme. It's called The Way to the Stars, and was first published in the April 2007 issue of Share International magazine.
It will soon become apparent that humanity has come to an impasse through which there is no obvious pathway. The blind following of market forces has brought the nations to a standstill in their fierce battle for markets and profits. Some tread more carefully as their economies falter, while others, especially the newly rich, soldier on, intent on even greater riches and growth.
Slowly it is dawning on the more experienced that all is not well, that the future looks bleaker than it should, that the ever-dreaded slump may not be far off after all. One might also say that a new realism is beginning to show itself.
In this situation there is only one way for the governments of the world to go, a way so new, so imponderable it would seem, that almost no thought has been given to its realization.
This new way is the cornerstone of Maitreya's advice to the nations. It is a way untried and yet so obvious in its efficacy that men will be astonished by the success of their actions when it is implemented. The way is sharing, the straightforward demonstration of the oneness of men.
The principle of sharing brings into manifestation the quality of divinity. When men share, they will reveal themselves as potential gods. Nothing is so truly divine as this great gesture of brotherhood. When men see this, they will enter into a new definition of themselves, and will begin the establishment of the era of righteousness. So will it be.
When Maitreya enters the lives of men and brings his counsel, a new chapter will open for men. They will know that they are not alone in this vast universe. They will know that there are many other worlds in which their brothers work for them, saving them from much harm. Maitreya will inaugurate the era of contact with these their far-off brothers, and will establish a future of mutual interaction and service. Thus will it be.
My friends, these are not idle dreams, but the considered words of one who knows. Take heart, therefore, and be prepared for this enlargement of your vision and capacity for service. Maitreya will show you that the way to the stars is a feasible journey of enlightenment.
He will show that the units of the one life manifest themselves throughout cosmos, that until now this knowledge has been withheld from men, but will provide a sure path for future generations to follow.
Much depends, therefore, on men's response to Maitreya's guidance. Men have indeed the choice to remain as men stunted in the growth of their magnificence, or to become what in truth they are, veritable gods.
Maitreya is sure that men will respond from their hearts, and that he will guide them towards their destiny.
And that's our program for today. If you have any questions or would like to know more about the world teacher Maitreya, please visit the website share-international.org, where you'll find more information on the various aspects of the emergence.
To inquire about Share International magazine subscriptions, books by Benjamin Creme, or our monthly free of charge newsletter, the number is 04234 1133.
Thank you for listening to us on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. And please tune in to our next World Teacher program on Saturday the 17th of January at the usual time of 10 a.m.
You can listen again to this program and previous ones by visiting share-international-nz.info and click on the radio tab.